of Tanya Talks. I'm your host, Tanya Ricketts, where we're here to have real talk about real issues with real people just like you and I. So tonight we have joining us is Jessica Stevens. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. So to the live audience out there, you are the advertising executive turned entrepreneur of multiple businesses. However, what tugs at your heartstring is ButterFly versus DragonFly. So we are going to find out what that means because I'm curious to know what that means and what that looks like, right? So let's get started. What does that mean? Where did it, what's the comparison? What are we versus what with?
Well, yes, of course. So this is, I have this beautiful dragonfly pendant that I have had for, oh gosh, close to like maybe 20 years now coming up.
20 years, okay.
And I got it on a trip that I took to Spain in my 20s. And I found it in this little jewelry shop in Valencia. And it was just like in the case with all sorts of other things. And I was just completely drawn to this piece of jewelry. I'm like, oh my goodness, that is beautiful. I need to have it. And so I bought it, and I have probably been wearing it 90% of the time since I purchased that thing to today. It also happens to be the most complimentary piece of jewelry that I own, probably because I wear it so much. But the meaning of it for me, it was that dragonflies have always kind of been my, spirit animal, if you will.
I was going to say that. Is that your spirit animal?
Yeah. So I've always been attracted to dragonflies. Dragonflies have also been very attracted to me my whole life. Just the other day, I was out in my backyard and I was on my deck, and I just look up and there was probably 7 or 8 dragonflies flying around my backyard.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, ooh, here it comes, right? And I just love them. And so when I started my, transformation journey, I suppose, I was doing a lot of research, as that's my personality. I'm a researcher. And so I was looking into things, and I was thinking about like, okay, like when people think about transformation, like, what do they automatically think about? And, normally the answer that I get is, butterflies, right? And butterflies tend to be that symbol of transformation for people, and which is very true. And so I, was looking at it, and I'm like, okay, a caterpillar, is the start. It's a caterpillar. And then this caterpillar goes away and cocoons itself away from the world and does all of its messy change in hiding.
Yes.
And then reemerges as this beautiful butterfly. And like, how wonderful is that story, right? And I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, but that is not real life for humans. Like, that's great for a butterfly, but us humans, we do not have the opportunity always to go and hide ourselves away from the world and do all of our messy change.
That is so true. Yes.
Like you can't just like run away to Bali and go eat, pray, love on a mountain and go purpose all the time, right? So it's a little bit unrealistic to like think of that butterfly transformation story as how people go through change, right? Dragonfly, however, on the other hand, actually starts out as a nymph in the water, and it swims. And dragonflies actually have something that we call partial metamorphosis, meaning that they actually change a little bit at a time. Okay, so their metamorphosis is gradual. So they change a little bit, but not so much that they can no longer survive in the environment in which they're living, which is the water. So they change a little bit every day, until they get to the point where they are able to like pull themselves out of the water, flop themselves on the shore, crack open their wings, and fly as a dragonfly.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is the research that I found.
Right,
so
right.
When I looked at that story, I'm like, that is true transformation. If you are able to change and push yourself through change while still swimming through what I call the muck of your life, aka that pond, and still be able to change, that transformation is that much more powerful, sticking, and really more meaningful when you think about swimming to flying. Like those are totally two different universes and worlds in which this creature lives through, right? The water version, the nymph version of their life, and then the flying version. And dragonflies have this amazing ability to like fly in multiple directions. It goes forward, it goes backwards, it can go sideways. Like its ability to maneuver in its new form is so powerful. And I feel as though that is kind of because of the struggle of transformation that they went through
So
to
they
get
come
there.
strong.
Right? So when I'm coaching people, I like to put them through this process of partial metamorphosis of like, I'm going to help you win the day, how to instill tiny little micro habits that you're going to do day over day over day to help you change yourself in the direction in which you want to go, but not so much that you can no longer survive in the world that you're living in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can just walk away from a job that they may find really toxic. They might need to transform and change themselves while still there.
Mm-hmm.
How do you change while you're still living in that toxic environment or surrounded by those same people? If you can change despite those environmental circumstances, that's true power. So that is what I always kind of talk about, my dragonfly versus butterfly transformation story, and like which transformation process, would fit your life better. Run away to Bali and go pray on a mountain for 3 months. Anyone can feel great after that. But can you do it while you're still surrounded by all the things in your life?
And I appreciate that, you being a coach and being that type of a coach that's intentional that way, because a lot of us, you are correct, would love to go away on the mountaintop. For me, I'm going to call it my Amazon, you call it your valley, but I'd love to go away and find myself more deeply. How do you, can that still take place without having to go there? And you're suggesting, yes, that is possible. And that's what dragonflies do.
Mm-hmm.
And we mirror more of that, traction, if you want to call it, through transformation here in this moment of living our real day, everyday lives.
Yeah, for sure.
That means your empathy towards understanding our struggles, and I'm saying ours because we're going through it as a coach, you're able to help not fairy tale it is into just get over it or just this. It's no, like, let's work through, do the work in the ugliness of it all.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate you talking about the power part of it.
Because like if you just, pull yourself out of the environment and put yourself in total peace, there's no stress, there's no, bills to pay, there's like none of your daily stressors exist. Yeah, you can find some inner peace for sure. Right? Like, you're at a silent retreat and all of your meals are prepared and you're not allowed to turn on social media, and you're not like, yeah, you can meditate and read and like yoga yourself. Yeah, you're gonna feel like $1 million, right? How do you do that when the phone is ringing, bills to be paid, like all of the, like our environment is still happening? If you can work on yourself and strengthen yourself to survive in that environment, that's way better. Because like when you come off that mountaintop in Bali or the Amazon, wherever, and you come back to your real life,
you're going to fall. Well, it's funny because you're not developing any, I call it the muscles. You're not developing any, emotional muscles, the mental muscles aren't there, even physical muscles, like all the muscles that we can tap into utilizing. It's an opportunity through the ugly, I don't want to even say the ugliness, the muck of it all. The real work, I think, happens in the disasters, in the catastrophes, in the disappointments, in the letdowns. Mm-hmm. That's where the real work happens. And when you come out of it, you're right. You can fly forward and backwards and sideways. It's like, yeah, bring it on. Been there, done that.
Bring it on. Yeah. So that is my butterfly versus dragonfly transformation analogy that I love to share and have people really think about their life. And like, and I'm not knocking, going and, doing some deep work if that is something that you need. And, a lot of people kind of need to do that for that first step of like really cracking the shield that's been protecting them for so long, whatever they've kind of built this shell around themselves to protect them, could have been a trauma, whatever. Yeah, some deeper work may need to be done to like get that open.
Right.
So both are valid, both are helpful, both, ways you will have, some level of success in terms of moving yourself forward, but which one is sustainable?
Right.
Right. And maybe you need to do both. Maybe you need to like start the butterfly journey, get that going, but then, continue on in a dragonfly state, or maybe you just got to like work with what you have as a dragonfly first and get yourself to a point and then like, all right, now I'm ready. Like, let's fly, let's go and do some deeper work. So a combination of both is the ideal, whatever, whichever one you want to kind of dive into first. Great. But for the average person out there, if you only had one to pick of how you wanted to go through your transformation journey, that dragonfly option is really the reality for most people.
For sure. I'm listening to you and I'm like, yeah, that seems right about right. And, coaching for years myself, people are like, how am I going to do this? And it's like, take one baby steps. But I never thought to correlate it to, having that imagery towards a dragonfly, because I didn't know until this show, just today, this minute. that was part of the
Tanya's something new today, Tanya.
Totally. I learn everything on this show. I swear to you, you have no idea. I'm like, okay, all right. Just when you think you know something, you know nothing, right? So share a little bit of your story with us. I know that, you're into wellness and you recently launched a podcast. What I just blank, now what? And I know you're into wellness, you're a wellness practitioner, you're a self-care practitioner. You do speaking as well. You're coaching, and I like the way you put it. Advertising executive turned entrepreneur of multiple businesses. Share a little bit of your journey.
Oh my gosh, like there's so many tangents of this. How long is the show, Tanya? But I will do like a version of it. So my background is in marketing and advertising. I was that typical immigrant child of you got to go to school and you got to get a degree and then you got to get the job and then you got to climb the ladder. And not that my parents told me that that's what I had to do, but that's what I inherited in terms of like what we needed to do. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I ended up in advertising and I followed my dad's footsteps. Actually, he was also in the industry and he told me, no, don't do it. He warned me against it. And I was that stubborn child of like, but you do it, Dad. So it can't be that bad. I'm going to do it too. So I end up in advertising just for years. Like, I don't even like the amount of time that's passed between now and then feels like a decade, like so many decades ago. But I end up in advertising accidentally. It wasn't my original intention, but I landed there and I just kind of kept going. And I had this career, which I enjoyed. I loved. It was a lot of fun, really exciting. It afforded me a really good life too. But that industry of advertising is crazy intense and it is always on. It's go, go, go. And I was starting to feel really tired and a little burnt out. And, but it's the only thing that I knew. So you put the blinders on and you're like, well, just keep going because that's what you do. Like you're an adult now. This is adulting. Right? Everyone around
panties on and just keep going.
Everyone around me in advertising was also feeling the same. So I just thought that was normal. I'm like, oh, this is life, right?
Right.
But I was becoming a little exhausted. And truth be told, I was reaching the age in my life in which I really wanted to be married to a human. And I realized that I was married to my career. I don't know if anybody else has, come upon that reflection, like, oh my God, like I actually am ashamed to admit this, but I slept at my office more times than I would like to admit.
I think you're the first person that I've ever had the conversation with. I remember going into work at 8:00 in the morning and leaving at about 5 something in the morning. So
I would literally just go shower at the gym.
Yeah.
I would like be like working on a big presentation, whatever, and it's like 6 a.m. I'm like, I guess I should go shower. So then,
Right.
right. And I would like go to the gym down the street and then come back to the office. And I had been there all night. I had
Right.
slept on a couch in like the editing studio, like
Right.
crazy stuff. Like
I
that.
can relate to that. Yes.
Um,
And it's not a proud, for anybody listening out there, it's not a moment that I'm proud of. It was, I was married at the time and no kids. I just newly married. I remember going home at 5 o'clock in the morning and putting my head down on the pillow and there was a piece of paper. So my husband ended up, my new husband, newlywed, turns the light on and says, I forgot what you look like. And I knew I was in trouble. You know, like there's something wrong when you're that addicted, or for whatever it was, the void it was filling, or whatever reason I did it. You know, there was something wrong with that when even being married, I was still married to.
yeah. Well, I had no one to go home to, right? So that I had no excuse to leave the office really. So I was like, Huntress, like, it'd be nice to be married to another human, right? So I had that revelation. And thankfully, luckily, I actually met my now husband and we actually started a long distance relationship. I don't know if you or any of your listeners have ever been in one of those.
No.
But they're hard. They're hard. That's another topic for another day. But what this long distance relationship made me realize is that I didn't own my time. And that somebody else did. And the thing with long distance relationships that most people are unaware of is they actually take more time than in-person relationships do, because you have to be really intentional about the time that you spend together. Really like passive time that you're like, you know, hanging out and doing these things. You're like spending time together, but you're doing other stuff. Like to be in a long distance relationship, you actually have to like get on a plane and go and see that person. So there's a big time commitment there. Or B, when you're having those long distance conversations or video calls or whatever, you have to be present with that person. So you can't do anything else, because the only thing that you have is to talk. Like you can't, let's go like do this experience and learn about each other while we're like having dinner or whatever. Like, no, you can just sit up on Skype and talk to each other, and that's all you can do. So it made me realize that I didn't own my time. Somebody else did. They told me where I had to be, how long I had to be there, showing up. I'm like, I'm happy to work. Like, I love doing what I do. I just wish I could do it over there. And you're telling me that I can't, right? Even having to like ask permission to use my own vacation days that I had earned to go and visit my fiance started to become crazy to me. I'm like, how, like, I'm an adult, like I can manage my calendar. Like, this is insane. So that's kind of like what kind of really opened up my brain to like, you know, maybe this advertising career isn't what you want to be doing for the rest of your life, Jessica. And so, but again, it's the only thing you know. So you kind of like stay in the lane. And what probably kept me in the relationship, or in the relationship with my job longer than I maybe needed to or wanted to, was because of our complicated long distance marriage, right? So moving my husband to Canada, there's a lot of requirements that come up part of that. And one of them is that you can financially support this other person for 10 years without the help of the government. And so having a really, you know, good job, 6 figures plus, really was necessary in that whole immigration process. So as much as I probably would have loved to like left it and like done something sooner, I needed the job to get him into the country. Right. So did that. And it actually took us almost 2 years to get him into the country. Definitely not the introduction into married life that I envisioned as a little girl, but yes, like, you know, take what you got and figure it out. And so that was part of the process too, is like having your life on hold and waiting for this thing to kind of finally happen that you've been patiently anticipating for a long time. So our life was very much on hold, like waiting for the day that someone else allows you to do something, allows you to be together, allows you to come, allows you to, and so that I feel for you in this moment. I have such a soft spot in my heart for immigrants. who are moving to a new country and starting new things because they are literally at the mercy of the system. When does the system allow you to do the things that you want to do, right?
Mhm.
So that was probably the start of the process, but it was put on hold for a number of reasons. And it wasn't until my husband actually arrived in Canada that it was like, yay, like he's finally here. Like we're gonna do all the things. We're gonna like be together and like go on our honeymoon and just start all that married normal life stuff together. And then, life happens again and throws you another curveball and you're like, ooh, not yet, not for you. And I actually got laid off from my job for the second time in 18 months. And so again, like more hurdles that we had to clear. But it was obvious to me then that me and advertising definitely needed to break up at that point because it was the second time in 18 months that I'd gotten laid off. And it was a sign from the universe. It was like nudging me, and I wasn't really paying attention hard enough the first times, or I just kind of shelved it because it wasn't a convenient time. Now I had to really listen to be like, okay, Jess, like for reals now.
So now what do you figure out? Like, what do you do? Like, I'm like, okay, I'm laid off. I've got 10 years to support my husband
Yeah,
where he can get it.
figure something out, that's for sure. So what I did is I actually ended up leaving the agency side of the industry and I went client side because everyone had told me like, ooh, client side's the holy grail. Like it's so much better over there. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see about that. And so I decided to jump the fence. I went client side and worked for a company in the tech industry. And luckily there was a maternity leave contract that came up and I'm like, ooh, perfect. 1 year, long enough for me to see if that's enough of a change. And if it is, great, like awesome. And if it's not, then I got 1 year to figure out what it is that I want to do, but at least I got a job and I'm paying the bills, right?
Right, totally.
I still have this like amazing, husband who is new to the country and can't find a job yet because he's an immigrant and everyone wants Canadian experience. So me working was really important. So I found the like quote unquote perfect scenario for myself. It was maternity leave contract, long enough for me to kind of see. And if it wasn't, then I had a year to figure out what I wanted to do. Right. And that's when I kind of knew like you need an exit strategy, Jessica. Like you need to get out of here. And that's when I started putting that into place. I started, an online part-time business that I side hustled alongside of my career, built that up, and started just kind of exploring like what else do I like? What else do I want to do? What inspires me? What lights me up, what would get me excited about waking up every day. Because I got to the point where like waking up to go to work was just like, I don't want to do this, but it's paying the bills, so I'm going to. So I did a lot of
It's
that.
funny how that mentality that we go through as human beings is we have to pay the bills. So it's almost like suffering in silence. It's like a torture, like do what doesn't make you happy because we got to pay the bills. Right?
Yeah. So I was like, this is crazy. So I took that year, side hustled, tried a whole bunch of things, but gave myself an opportunity to have some flexibility and like not have to like take another full-time job, right? Like when that maternity leave contract was going to be up, like I now had some choices. I had some flexibility. I could like figure out other things. My husband had already also, had an opportunity to finally like get a job here. And we had a little bit more like wiggle room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is when I really was like, all right, like what gets me excited? And I just got to do a whole bunch of cool, fun things. I got to, volunteer and like work for cool organizations, like things that I had never had time for because I used to be a crazy workaholic. Right. And so started exploring, I started figuring out like who's Jessica and what do I like to do and what am I good at? And does the good at and like to do meet anywhere? Because there's things that you're good at doesn't mean you like them, and then there's things that
Absolutely.
you love to do doesn't mean that it's actually that
Right. I totally get it.
able to like give you a living, right? So like where does all of this intersect?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's kind of where it all started. And then I, was working really big on my personal development along with my business development and career development. And so I went and did an amazing program I did a version of ballet. I did a 3-day and like intensive, like, program that really cracked me open. And from there it was just like, right. And learned some things about myself that I never knew before. I was blind to them. Like I didn't know that I
Like
didn't.
what? What does that look like? Like, and you hear it all the time. People say like they learn things about themselves. What does
Yeah.
that look like? Yeah. Like what are some of the things you learn?
What I learned was for a good portion of my life, I was playing the role of a supporting character in somebody else's story.
Mm.
So instead of being the main character of my own show, I was the best friend. I was the Kimmy Gibbler. I was playing a role in somebody else's show and scenario. I had always casted myself as the best friend, but not the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that about myself through this program. I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I always do that. Like that, like, this is crazy. And so when I realized that, I was like, Jessica, it's time to be the star of your own show.
And why was that? Were you afraid of being the star of your own show, or just, just what do you think the root of that was?
The root of that was relationship, like friendship relationships that I had from a young child that just formed me into that position. And the relationship I had with that person just like solidified that because of who they were and who I identified myself as the best friend.
Mm.
So, the ages between 0 and 7 are so fundamental in who we are as adults. And so it was all kind of rooted in some childhood friendships
Mm-hmm.
and how I was treated and what I did and how I reacted to certain things or how I felt about myself in those friendships. And then
And
maybe
was it like that light bulb moment, that aha moment when you're like, I don't have to, I can be the leading character in my own life? Was it like you were breathing all of a sudden, a weight lifted off, a
oh,
aha moment, all of it? Like,
because I was completely unaware of it. Like I had no idea that I was doing this to myself. I had no idea that I was typecasting myself in my life as this sub character, right?
yeah.
And it wasn't until I, dug deep and found these, seeds of belief of who I was as a person that I was like, oh my gosh. So, and then I was like looking at my life. I'm like, yes, I see it there and I see it there. And like, I see how I did that there and how I showed up in that scenario and how I acted. Like, totally. So, kind of like stripped away that persona of, being the best friend, um, and decided like, I'm going to be my own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from that day kind of forward, I have never assigned anyone else that label of being my best friend. I am my own best friend.
Oh, I love it. It's like falling in love with yourself for the very first time, right? Like,
Yeah,
wow, that's it. And did it reshape the type of relationships that you were attracting into your life from that moment forward? Like, that you were now starting to see different types of relationships because now you're interacting with yourself differently, which is going to cause you to interact with others differently. Did you find new characters showing up?
absolutely. So I became really mindful of who I was, interacting with, how I was interacting with those people, and put up a lot of boundaries that I never had before,
Mm.
because best friends do everything for each other. So I started doing those things for myself, and I stopped relying on other people to play the role of the best friend in my life, but just disappoint me.
Mm.
Yeah. So
I'm like ready to cry because I'm like, I can relate to those boundaries and everything.
yeah. Here's the thing. Like I think what's really important, especially for young girls.
Mm.
And we as adults need to be really mindful about how we talk to young girls. It's like this whole obsession with best friends. Who's your best friend at school? Like, and we talk about this pair or this other, person in your child's life that is supposed to kind of like make life better. Like life is better with like BFF forever. Like they're all, even in the media, there's this massive obsession about best friend culture. Like life is better with a best friend. Doing these things is better when you have someone to do it with. And so it's can be very challenging and possibly even harmful for some people, especially when you're in a situation where someone else, you have labeled them your best friend, but you are not their best friend.
Right.
And that happens often, especially in young girls' lives, where, this girl says like, oh my gosh, my best friend is Susie. Like Susie's my best friend, but in Susie's world, you're not hers. Her
Right.
best friend is Julie, right? So there's like this disconnect when it's not equal. And so that can play a lot of scenarios out, or when for whatever the reason that friend leaves you, they move away, they change schools, they like whatever could happen, and now there's this quote unquote void in your life because this best friend is gone. Right.
And what I hear in that, because it happens all the time, is I believe in the community and friendship and connectedness. Like that's how we exist as human beings. And I think that where the danger lies is when we teach, especially girls, to find it outside of themselves. So it's versus finding themselves through the other person, sharing in communion. And how do you teach that at a young age?
Yeah.
How do you without and really in essence what that is teaching little girls not to get their validation out of anything other than from themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Because once that goes, it's dangerous.
Yeah, because if you're relying on this other person to like tell you you're pretty and tell you you're fun and tell you whatever, and then they're gone, who's going to tell you that anymore, right? Or how are you going to get that feedback? So it's also about putting a label on somebody else too. Like the word best, I think, is thrown around much too casually, because there is ranking. And so to label somebody your best friend out of all of the other friends you're going to have, and when that person does something that's not so nice to you, like it's actually more harmful than if any of the other friends did that thing. It's because you labeled that person your best friend and they did that. It hurts like 10 times much more. Right. So I think if we can encourage kids to have many friends and lots of great friends, and like and let them know like you're gonna have friends that come and go in your life, but it's just because this is the first friend you have in kindergarten doesn't mean she's gonna be around all the way till you're married. So yeah, having many friends, having a big group of friends, like that's I think a lot safer than like pinning all of your emotional needs and stuff on this one other person.
Expectations, right? And then we all know when you're expecting something, you usually get disappointed. I do have to compliment you because I know, like, I've seen you do other things offline, and I have to say that listening to your story and listening to all the I'm going to call you belong, I call it the school of life. So you were brought nicely through the school of life. You remained positive along the way. And, a lot of people can turn that into bitterness, resentment, anger, and you chose to spin it around for good. And I appreciate that, because it's individuals, when we go through things as human beings and we can use it for a higher purpose, we get to help others overcome their challenges as well. So thank you for turning it around into something good for us all to receive and benefit from.
Like I don't know if I intentionally set out to do that, but I think what really helped us, or at least helped me do that, was having this like drawn out like process in our marriage, and getting my husband into the country, and just literally having to like be patient and wait, and like one other like monkey wrench was thrown into the plan, and you're like, okay, like let's figure this one out now, and like just not imploding inside and been like, this sucks, like why us, and like that's not going to help the marriage be any better. So like trying to like be positive with the aspects of our relationship that we could at the time kind of forced me to do that, right? Like I don't have any regrets about how our relationship or our marriage unfolded. It's our story. And so to get angry and bitter, especially at like the timeline or the government or like whatever during that wasn't going to be helpful.
Right. You made lemonade. You took your lemons and you made lemonade.
Yeah. So
let's talk about I just blank now what.
Yeah.
So now we go through this, we fast forward it, you're into this wellness, you dabbled in here and there, and now you've launched your podcast, which I think I'm thrilled about, is, I just blank, now what inspired that?
So the inspiration behind the show was actually about the first time I actually got laid off in my career. And it came at a very inopportune time, as you can imagine. All layoffs do, right? Like there's never a good time to be laid off.
No, of course.
The first time I got laid off actually happened 2 months after our wedding. So I'm newlywed. We've just finished putting in his residency papers into the government to, hopefully one day have him arrive. And I got laid off from my job. And as I mentioned at the beginning, part of the requirements of sponsoring somebody to come into the country is you have to prove to the government that you can take care of that person. So that job became really important because it was the thing that was going to allow him to come into the country, and I no longer had it. Yikes.
So
right?
Now what?
So the conversation, like I literally like said those exact words, like, the day is like, oh my God, I just got laid off. Now what? So it was in retelling that story to somebody that I realized that I had so many lessons in what I did next, how I moved forward, how we kept positive, because I wasn't eligible for unemployment insurance. I couldn't collect EI or they would have instantly rejected his residency.
Okay.
So I had to figure it out and fast. And so I was retelling the story to somebody, and that's what kind of made me think like, oh, wow, like there were some really good lessons in there. And then I'm like, oh, and I have another story. And I have another story. Yeah. Of all of these things that kind of just happened in my life, quote unquote, happened. Right.
Right.
What I did to move on, how I, used the lessons from it to like progress and proceed. So I had this idea for the show for a long time. And it was just like this like nugget of an idea. And I wanted to do it and then I didn't, and then I got scared, and then the imposter syndrome kicked in, and like all the things. But finally, 2 years later, I'm like, Jessica, like, do it. Like, you're watching all these other people do the thing that you want to do. Just stop watching them and go and do it. So earlier this year, I finally launched my podcast, baby, and I'm officially the star of my own show.
There you go, right?
And it's been a great experience so far. It's such an amazing response to the show. I think people really love the title because it's so relatable, because everybody has probably a dozen I just blank now what stories.
Right.
And so the show is all about sharing them, right? Everyday humans, like you and I, of when life comes at you and what you do next, and how you decide to show up, and how you use that to propel yourself forward versus pulling the cover over your head and crying and like eating Cheetos all day.
Right.
Not that I haven't done that before, totally done that, but like, how do you use these things that happen in your life to propel yourself forward? So that's the show. We have had some amazing guests so far, and their stories will literally bring you to tears.
And where can they listen to this?
So we are on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify. You can subscribe to the show there, or you can listen, on my website at jessicastevens.ca. And yeah, we're taking on guests left and right. So many people want to come and share their story of tons of different topics. And I think that's what I love about the show too, is that it is a platform that touches all aspects of life, because everybody has these stories in different areas of life. It could be in business, it could be in relationships, it could be in, good things too. This is not all tragic, horrible stuff. Sometimes some really
I
good.
just won the lottery. Now what?
I just won the lottery. Now what? Right? I'm still waiting for that guest to come onto the show. But it's like I just graduated. Now what? Like there's some really big pivotal moments in all of our lives that either happen really fast and you didn't see it coming. And so you're like, now what? Or, and sometimes like in our situation, like it was such a slow progression that you've been anticipating this for like the longest time ever. And it's just like creeping. And then all of a sudden it's here and you're like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this for so long. And now it's here. I don't even know. Right? Like, yay, he's finally in the country 2 years later. Now what? Like how do we actually be together? Right? So it's the good, it's the bad, it's
in between.
It's in between. It's just life lessons. And, we have a couple guests coming on who are actually quote unquote experts in a few areas that are going to share some wisdom and advice when things kind of go sideways and you need, you need some support in a certain area. We're going to have a few experts on the show too. So yeah, it's really fun. And the best part is the guests and the stories that people tell and how they overcome or use that moment, that blank moment.
Well, forgive me, but thank goodness then for you to launch a podcast that's going to impact so many people's lives that you did get laid off. I got laid off. Now what? Because as of that moment, it created this, and the impact that it's going to have is going to be phenomenal. So,
thank you. Yeah, I actually got laid off 3 times in 4 years. So I officially refer to myself as a professional laid off person. So I know what I'm talking about, my friends. I know what I'm talking about.
Also that you could be the star of your own show. Do you get that, right? So you did that deep work and now look at where it led you, right? So.
Oh yeah, like I people look at me now and they're like, oh, Jessica she's so confident and she, has such personality and she's so articulate and like all of these things that they say. And I'm like, if you had met me when, right, this is a lot of years of work that have come forward. But yeah, I definitely didn't have the confidence to be the star of my own show before, because I had always put myself in that supporting character role. I was the best like backstage person. I was like, the assistants, behind the scenes, like that's where I liked it. I did not like being on the stage. I did not like the spotlight. I did not like that role. I had to work really hard to put myself there. Yes, I was a performer and a dancer as a young child. And so I was used to being on the stage, but not solo.
Right.
Like the ensemble. Like I was like one of many, right? And you're all wearing the identical costume. So you all just blend in. Being solo and having all the attention on me, oh, that was crippling. Like never. Yeah. But look at me now, right?
So, I was going to say, you're doing great at it. I want to talk a little bit about the hub. You are, you do the hub. Is that part of you?
Yeah, so Hub Inc. stands for Heighten Your Business, and I am the director of the Toronto chapter here in Toronto. And Heighten Your Business is a community and an organization to support women entrepreneurs. And so we provide, business accelerator events and, courses and speaker series and networking opportunities to give women entrepreneurs opportunities to kind of up their skills. Because the reality is most of us actually didn't intend to be entrepreneurs. And many of us didn't go to business school, that's for damn sure. So there's a lot of things that we don't know how to do because we're coming from some other industry, or we're good at what we do, but we don't know how to build the business to support the thing that we do, right? Like I'm a yoga instructor. I'm really good at yoga. I don't know how to run a yoga studio, right? right? I don't know
how can somebody get in touch with you to be a part of that?
So on my website, again, there's lots of options, or they can reach out to me at, jessica@hubinc.ca.
Okay. And jessicastevens.ca though is your actual website.
jessicastevens.ca is the hub and the home of all the things that I do. So whether it be Hub Inc., whether it be the podcast, whether it be my health and wellness business, my 30 days to healthy living groups, whatever it is, yeah, you can find me on the website. And
So everybody go there. I want you guys to all go to Jessica Stevens, STEPHEN. So I know there's
yes,
people will come there. PHEN.ca, jessicastevens.ca. I want everybody to go. I also want you guys to follow Jessica on Instagram. I'm not sure about Facebook, but I know I personally follow you on Instagram, and you've always got your shakes on the go and all your healthy stuff. And it's fun to watch what you're coming out with for that morning or that day, and your plank exercises and challenges that are on the go. So, quite an influencer out there and a voice, and, just a cheerleader for everybody. So I want everybody to follow you, and please follow Jessica on Jessica Loves Life. And obviously when you go to her Instagram, you'll see why. Facebook, Jessica Stevens, and also LinkedIn, Jessica Stevens as well. So I want you to just kind of walk us through the process of what it's like working with you, as a coach. Ooh. What people can expect. I want, just because I subscribe to the transformation process that you go through with the DragonFly, and I think that seems more realistic and relatable for individuals to go through versus thinking that when you've got a family. And I think of my own life, and having to do a lot of my own personal deep work with being a wife, working, being my own entrepreneur, looking after 2 children. And I think that that's where I really transformed in a stronger and more powerful way, is because I had to do the real deep work in the midst of life.
Yeah, you definitely had a DragonFly transformation.
So if you have Tanya Talks, believe me.
So, well, first, it's like, in order to go to get to somewhere else, you need to know where you are, right? You need to where am I now? What is point A, right? And it's funny because my husband's a pilot, and so his career also very, very rooted in this GPS system. You can't go somewhere until you know where you are, so that you can plot both points and figure out the best route to get there. So I always like to start of where are we? Where are you right now? What is the world? What does the pond look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
And how much muck are we trying to swim through?
Oh, I like that question. How much muck are we trying to swim through?
Because some people's lives not as murky. Mm-hmm. Some of it's pretty clear, and they're just stuck. They just don't know how to move, but it's clear. The path is clear. They can see where they want to go. And other people's lives are really murky. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that, they've been kicking their feet for a long time, and a lot of that sludge on the bottom of the pond has been kicked up, and the water's not so clear. So you can't see. And so it's figuring out where you are right now, and helping people get really clear as to where they want to go. Because just like a GPS system, you can't say, I want to be not here. It doesn't work that way, right? You actually need to give it a destination. I want to be in California. I want to be in Phoenix, right? And then it'll plot the course and give you options of how to get there. Do you want the straight shot, shortest route possible? Do you want the scenic route, the journey version? Is this a get to the destination, or is this let's experience the journey on the way there kind of trip too? So right. Once you kind of know where you are, where you want to go, and if you don't know where you want to go, we'll ask some questions to help you figure that part out. And then we'll plot it, being okay, well, how do you want to get there? And are you willing to take some pit stops and some side trips? And are you are you okay? Like,
Isn't that crazy? The minute you think that you're getting into this work and you're starting on the path, and all of a sudden something triggers you, or somebody comes in and triggers you, and all this stuff starts happening, you're like, oh, this isn't the way it was supposed to be.
yeah, because let me tell you, the journey from getting to Toronto to California on a Lear jet, very different than driving in a minivan,
Right.
road tripping it there. So how do you want to get there?
Hmm.
Right. So those are kind of like some of those big fundamental questions that we talk about and unpack to level set expectations on both sides of like what does this look like, and what are you going to be okay with? Are you going to be
Mm.
okay with breaking down on the side of the road? Are you going to be okay with getting your flight delayed and you just sitting in limbo for a little while? What are you going to be okay with?
I like that question. That is a very powerful question. I think that it's setting up that expectation. And I think it's also setting it up for people to understand that there are going to be challenges on the way. Like you're framing, I love the way you're framing it. Somebody working with you is like, okay, you're really setting up the visual that it's not for the faint of heart, is what I call it. Doing this work is not, even if you don't know where you want to be, and you work with people that don't know necessarily where they want to be, but
Mhm.
at least starting with them. But it's setting up that expectation that it's not for the faint of heart. And obviously, listening to your story, that actually proves
Yeah.
it's true. It's not for the faint of
If
heart.
somebody is up for the journey, then
Right.
let's work together, because I am a adventurer. Like like I want to see most of this planet. So I'm like, oh, I've never been there. I'm ready to come along on that ride with you for sure. Let's go check it out.
Right.
But they need to know like that there's going to be some serious road trip issues that are
Right. Right.
pop
We're
up.
gonna have some tidal waves.
Yeah, we're going to have some things. And my life, total example of that. And I share a lot of my own stories to make them realize like this life is far from perfect.
Mhm.
Life was far from normal. Like I definitely have not gone down a traditional route and path.
Mhm.
And what I've actually had to do. So I do share a lot of personal stories with people too, to let them know like, hey, I've been in the muck, I've been in the mud, and I've worked my way through a lot of it too. So I
Mhm.
can really empathize with them, because no one wants to learn from somebody who's perfect.
I was just about to say that, like anybody listening, I always say to people, if you're going to find somebody to work with, like there are so many coaches out there, and I say find the one that works best for you because, I don't think that there are enough coaches in this world personally, because I think that we can all use help and support. Even coaches
Mhm.
still require help and support. But I think it's important that when you find a coach, and that's why I always ask coaches when they come on the show, what is it like working? I want people to understand what they're getting with you. And I like and appreciate the fact that you're relatable to say, hey, look, I know what you're feeling. I've been there. I've done that, and people don't have to be embarrassed or ashamed of what they're feeling because you know exactly what it feels like. But what you also know is how to get through it. And that's what's going to help them. And it's important for you guys watching this evening that, that's who Jessica's somebody that you want to work with because she's been there, done that, and she knows how to get through it. I'm going to say, I'm going to use the word hustle for a minute here because you had to figure out, okay, well, what do I do next? Like, really, what is next? Okay, well, I have to pay my bills. I still got to do this. What can I do? You've had to learn how to leverage and be creative and maneuver around things in order to move to the next level. And that takes
I have answered many now what questions.
right, right. And it takes resilience and strength and commitment. And for me personally, I want somebody working in my corner that has that commitment, that can stay committed and stay on course in the midst of when everything's derailing. Right? That is a big challenge, is to stay on course when things are derailing.
And I think it's really important for people to work with a coach whom is is very diverse in their experience too. and can be potentially like relatable to their life circumstance, right? So it's not like sometimes like, yeah, if you're going through a divorce, the best coach for you is somebody who maybe is experiencing divorce already, right? So
Absolutely.
that's gonna be the thing. Me as a mixed race, first generation Canadian from, very diverse heritage backgrounds, like I bring a very different perspective of the world and how to survive in that than a counterpart who might have, be blonde, blue-eyed, and male, right?
Right.
So working with people who have lived different perspectives too can also be really helpful when you're thinking about who you want to get some guidance from.
Absolutely. It's so important. So I just want to, we've got 4 minutes left of the show, and I just, want to take it back to just any nuggets you have just with the butterfly versus dragonfly, any nuggets that you want to leave with anyone, just your heart, what's on your heart, just to share with the world that you're always such a breath of fresh air and very positive. And what are you leaving us with tonight?
Wow. Oh my gosh. It's funny because I do this to my guests on my show. I'm like, what's the last thing? And they're like, go. I'm in the hot seat. So this is the hot seat question. What do I want to leave people with? You can do it.
Okay.
I did it. You can do it. It's not going to look the same, but your journey is going to be equally amazing. And the stories that you will share from it will hold with you forever, and someone else is going to learn from your experience. So this is a pay it forward moment. So do the work so that you can help somebody else in the future, and you have a legacy to leave. What you want that legacy to be. So if you're scared, that's good. And if you're contemplating and like questioning, like, oh, should I or shouldn't I? That's probably your gut telling you that this is the time for you to kind of maybe level up and do some work on yourself so that you can be your best version, and then pay it forward and help other people who are going to be attracted to you and want your help with something in life. Because as we said, there's a million coaches out there. There's a million, support workers. There's a million nurses, there's a million doctors, there's a million real estate agents. Like, we want to help you be the best version of whatever it is you're going to be so that you can attract the people who want to work with you.
Absolutely. 100%. Thank you very much for, I know it was kind of last minute, if anybody saw behind the scenes of how we uncovered, coming to this moment. So I appreciate you joining us here this evening and talking to us and explaining the differences between the two, butterfly versus dragonfly. I want you all out there, Jessica Stevens, STEPHEN, Stevens, jessicastevens.ca. Please go to the website. You will find all of the stuff that Jessica spoke about this evening about how you can work with her in different capacities. You can work with her. Also follow her on Instagram on Jess Loves Life, jess.loves.life. You are going to see her every day post all the amazing things that she posts about. She's a self-care practitioner. One of the roles that you play is as a self-care practitioner, and you will get all the tips that you need on how you can simply just incorporate simple things into your daily lifestyle.
Add a little health to your day.
Yeah. So I love that. Also Facebook, Jessica Stevens, and also on LinkedIn as well. So thank you guys for all tuning in. This is Jessica. You are anchoring our show for Tanya Talks for the season. Last show for the season. We will be breaking for the summer and resuming again in September. So thank you everybody for following me along this journey that started back in November as an exploded to where it is today. So I couldn't have done it without all of you guys watching. So thank you for being a part of the anchoring of the show for the season, Jess. And all right, everyone. So thank you again for watching Tanya Talks. Please remember to like and subscribe at Tanya Talks 4. Also, please visit thetanyaexperience.com if you want to take your life to the next level. All right. Good night, everyone. Good night, Jess.
Bye.